Okay, so welcome. We are here for our rest club this evening. So it's that kind of little bit of flow, little bit of restore as well. Really up to both of you whether you practice with your camera on or whether your camera off. I've sequenced it with that little bit of focus on hips, a little bit of focus on lower back, hopefully to maybe ease a bit of tension. Um, and then as we kind of move through, we'll go deeper towards those more restorative postures, and eventually towards a final resting pose. But I thought actually, because perhaps we've had some busyness in the day, we might start seated today. So I've popped myself on a block. You could put yourself on anything that you want to sit on here, bolster, blanket, on the ground, whatever's going to feel kind of comfortable for you to start your practice in this evening. And then take a bit of time to really be fussy with what that comfortable means to you. So things like kind of wriggling your hips down so that they're rested into the seat place that you're in. You might think about landing your hands somewhere on your knees, or you could rest them on your torso somewhere. And then before we find a bit of stillness here, can we take a few big rolls with the shoulders? So lifting the shoulders up towards the ears, rolling them back behind, and then down and forwards. And we'll take 3 or 4 of those rolls here. Lifting them up, down, behind. Great, that's it. So if you can find any of those kind of clunky bits of tension, maybe say hello to them. Maybe even welcome them in here. Maybe over time they'll start to kind of smooth back out. And then can we bring the shoulders down so they're away from the ears? You might rest your elbows roughly underneath your shoulders and then land the palms somewhere here on your legs or on your knees. Perhaps this is a moment where you start to bring the focus of the eyes towards the ground. Or if it feels okay for you to do so, you're welcome to close the eyes down here. Focus might come inwards. So we'll take a few moments of observation, and maybe that's an observation of how your breath is moving this evening. Maybe it's an observation of any little bits of information, sensations, things that are happening either internally or externally in the space around you. And then you are always welcome in your practice here to stay with your natural rhythm of breath. But to open, I might take us through 5 deeper inhales and exhales here. And the invitation is for the inhale through the nose and then the exhale through the mouth. So if you're joining, we'll take a deep breath in together through the nose. And then that exhale or sigh through the mouth. A deep breath in through the nose. And exhaling out. Deep breath in. See if you can expand into the ribs. And then exhaling out. Deep breath in. Deep exhale. Take one more here. Biggest breath that you can. And then full exhale out. Maybe tucking the chin down towards your chest. Looking to find that sense of lengthening through the back of your neck here. And then in this position, can you find this time a slow, steady breath in and a slow, steady breath out? Inhale might be through the nose, and then exhale perhaps here. If you're feeling a little bit congested like I am today, then please do feel free to come back to breathing through your mouth. or finding that slow inhale and exhale through the nose. And we'll take roughly 10 rounds of breath here, finding your own kind of steadiness or your own pacing of the breath. And that kind of intention, or the intention that I have for our rest club this evening, is to kind of find movement that will help bring us towards that stillness, or bring us towards a sense of stillness towards the end of our practice. But if you have your own intention in here, you might bring your intention into mind. Maybe it's a word, a feeling, something you'd like to explore this evening. Whatever that is, keeping that intention in mind for the next 3 rounds of breath. So again, that slow breath in and out. Maybe you hold it here in your mind. Breath in and out. And then we'll start to invite some gentle movements back in here. You might take a gentle lean of the shoulders towards the left, leaning forwards with the torso, round towards the right, and then backwards as well here. So it's a small leaning circle around with the torso. And as we kind of move through different bits of movements here this evening, perhaps these movements are kind of gentle, or you invite a sense of kindness in the movements that you take. So you can continue with fairly small circles here, or you're welcome to really kind of lean into the edges and take the chest quite far forwards, or maybe lean the shoulders around. Once you've taken another 2 or 3 here, we're going to reverse the circle. So slowing and then moving the circles around in the opposite direction as well. Hands there to kind of support you on the knees. Great. Take another 5 or so in this direction. And again, you can really kind of lean into the edges if you want to, or you can stay fairly small with the circles. Eventually, can you start to make smaller and smaller circles on each rotation until you come back towards stillness here on your mat? Perhaps bringing your palms together here at the heart in Anjali Mudra for a moment. You might repeat yourself your intention. Turn the palms away from you. So you're pushing the hands forward, tucking the chin down towards the chest. On the inhale, can we reach the hands up towards the sky? Think about pushing up tall. Option to look up or to stay looking forwards. And then exhale again to bring the hands forwards and down. We'll take that twice more. So inhale is reaching your hands up. Great. And then exhale, we're bringing the hands forwards. Let's take it one more time. Inhale to reach the hands up. Exhale to bring the hands forwards. This time, as you reach the hands up, see if you can release the fingers. Reach the fingertips up tall, and then start to circle around with the wrists here. I like to think about kind of floating leaves in the autumn. As the hands circle, can they gently float all the way back down towards your knees? So maybe they're kind of catching that breeze as they come down. Taking the hands back on towards the knees, and we'll take a gentle bit of movement through the neck, dropping left ear towards left shoulder, and then rolling the chin to center, finding all the way around towards the opposite side. And then we might kind of explore those circles side to side here. So chin tucks down, rolls around to the left, and then around to the right. If you enjoy the sense of lifting, you might lift the chin all the way up to the sky as you come round, and then the same again on the opposite side, all the way around. Eventually coming back through to center here. And we're going to move onto our hands and onto our knees today. You can roll over your knees. I'm going to kind of unravel, but then I'm going to invite you to take a bit of time to set your space up for your tabletop position. So if you have a blanket with you this evening, you might want to take a blanket and place that underneath your knees so you've got a bit of softness underneath the knees. So take as much time as you need to find something that feels comfortable for you to be in here. Knees want to be roughly underneath the hips, and hands want to be roughly underneath your shoulders. And then rather than our cat-cow, just like we were doing in our seat, can we lean towards the left, but then take the hips back towards the heels, lean towards the right, and then come forward. So again, we're circling the torso around here, but this time in our tabletop. And again, you're in control of how big these circles are. If you want to, you could really kind of lean the shoulders in and bend through the elbows. Or it could be more of a kind of snake-like movement with the hips as they sway side to side here. The idea is that we're just taking a bit of gentle movement around in the spine, but also around in the hips here as well. And then let's reverse the circles, exactly the same, but in the opposite direction. This time, can you think about pushing actively into each fingertip as you circle around here? Take another 3 in your own time. And then can we come back through to center? This time we will explore our cat-cow. You might drop the belly down, but pause in this first cow position, looking forwards, thinking about stretching across the front of your torso or around the front of your belly. And then can you look towards the knees, round upwards through the shoulders, tailbone is tucked here. And then we'll keep moving through those cat cows. So inhale, looking forwards, dropping the belly down. Exhale brings you into your cat. Inhale, finding your cow pose, looking forwards, and then exhale into your cat. Inhale brings you forwards. Exhale into cats. We'll take another 3 here, but again, feel free to bring in that kind of sense of intuitiveness in here by wriggling the hips side to side as you move. And if it's helpful, close down the eyes to focus on the feeling rather than how it looks here. Eventually, we'll come back through to center, and I'm just going to turn to face you for this one for a moment. Turning your fingers towards the outside edge of your mat, and then taking a gentle sway side to side here. So this time we're looking to stretch that inside of the wrist. So option 1 is to stay here, leaning gently side to side. Option 2 is to turn the fingers around so they're pointing towards the knees, and then your sway might be forwards and backwards. So whether you're working fingers out, side to side, or fingers towards you and then leaning forwards and backwards, a little bit more movement with the hands here. Maybe you explore both. Find the one that feels better. And then again, coming back through to center. Last one, controversial. Sometimes people don't really like this one, but see how it feels. In a tabletop position, take your left hand and can you turn it upside down so the fingers are pointing towards your knees, but the back of your hand is on the mat. And you could take a gentle kind of sway side to side in the hand. So that back part of the hand is pushing down into your mat slightly here. If you don't enjoy the sensation, please do kind of come back off of that. Or if you do, maybe find the other side. So flipping the other hand upside down, fingers towards the knees, and then taking a bit of a roll around on there. especially if you've been kind of doing any typing or like working with the hands recently in the garden or anything. Maybe giving the backs of the wrists a little bit of a stretch out as well. And then let's bring ourselves back through to center, toes towards each other in your tabletop. It might even be that your big toes touch. And just for a moment, we're going to sink the hips back towards the heels. You can stay really lifted in your child's pose, or you can drop your forearms down to ground or reach the hands far forward here. Either way, let's take maybe 5 rounds of breath in a child's pose of your choice. And when you're there, perhaps taking that moment to kind of find your breath again or to check back in with how you're doing after a little bit of movement together here on our mat. That slow, steady breath in and slow, steady breath out here as well. When you're ready, I invite you to come back to your tabletop or find a kneeling position here. And I'm just going to kind of talk us through an option for our downward facing dog this evening. So if you have 2 blocks at home, you might explore a downward facing dog, but using your blocks this evening, and it just brings a slightly different sensation to it. Again, if you don't have blocks, that's totally fine. You can do this without. But if you do, you might take them where you'd place your hands in a downward facing dog. So I've got 2 green blocks, and I'm going to take them towards the top of my mat, taking my hands onto them, tucking the toes, and then lifting the knees up to find that downward facing dog shape. And again, if you don't enjoy it, then take the hands back off of your blocks here. But maybe there's just a little bit more space to think about lengthening through the back of the legs. So you might bend through one knee and then bend through the opposite knee here. Maybe giving the head a shake, yes and no. We'll take another 2 rounds of breath. If you do have your hands on the bricks, can you wrap your fingers around the edges? So as if you're trying to take hold of your blocks. And if you were to pick one up, it would kind of come with you. And then can you push into the blocks or into the ground and push the hips towards the sky behind. So lengthening out through the back of the spine here. Taking a gentle lean to kind of hold yourself there. And then a gentle lean of everything over to the right side. Trust yourself to hold yourself there as well. Come back through to center and then look forward. Walk your toes towards your hands, towards the top of your mat. And again, if you've got the blocks there, you're welcome to rest your hands on the blocks or let them kind of hang out. You can also take your blocks to the side. Maybe walk the feet roughly as wide as your hips, so you've got space here. Space for the torso to kind of hang down between the legs. Option to take hold of opposite elbow. Gentle bend in the knees, and then maybe there's a sway side to side here. Again, see if we can release a little bit around the back of the neck. And then we're going to do something slightly different here in our fold. So if you release the hands down towards the ground, let the spine round as much as you can, and then start to take the torso round to the left. Lift up just a little, and then lower back down. Scoop the torso to the right, lift up just a little. And I'll turn to face you for this as well. So we're going to one side and lifting up, and then coming down, swinging to the opposite side. See if the hands can really kind of hang here. So give them a bit of a shake, a bit of a shimmy, the head a bit of a shimmy as well. And then let's come back through to center, as slow as you can, rolling all the way up to standing. Ooh, welcome yourself to find that sense of tallness here on your mat. Maybe the hands peel out wide. Let's take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. We're going to come down the same way we come up, but let's tuck the chin under, lean forward, soft bend in the knees, and then slowly roll all the way back down. This time, as we bend the knees, take the hands to ground and then take your right knee backwards and drop the right knee down. So if you had your blanket there from your tabletop, maybe that's where you're resting your knee, or you could grab a blanket and slide it under the knee. Bringing yourself up into your low lunge shape here. So there's a bend through the front knee, back knee is rested down. And then can you reach the hands up towards the sky? Maybe looking towards the fingertips, taking a deep breath in, and then exhale to bring them back down. From here, your front foot can step forwards roughly an inch or two, so that you've got a bit more space to lean forwards into here. And you can either do this with your hands on your front thigh to support, or again, you can think about even reaching towards the sky here. So I'm going to keep my hands here this evening. And then you start to rock backwards, lengthening through your front leg, and then forwards into the hips. So backwards and forwards. And this is a gentle rock to start with. If it feels like you want to go deeper, then absolutely, as you come forward, really sink into the knee. But just kind of listen to your own body here. So if there's any bits that are feeling a little bit funky and you don't enjoy them, no pressure to do them. Let's take one more rock forwards and backwards. And then we're going towards our lizard lunge. So we're taking our torso back up, but we're sliding our left foot to the very edge of the mat here. So it's outside of where you'd have your left hand down. And again, if you want to use your blocks, I'm going to demonstrate with blocks. Taking your blocks to the inside of your foot, and then your hands might come down onto your blocks. And you can decide which height you want those blocks to be. Same thing. The idea is that we're rocking forwards, bringing the hips as far forwards as it feels okay to do so, and then pushing the hips back. And again, you're in control with how far they're pushing forwards and how far they're pushing back. Gentle kind of sway in and out. We are going to move a little bit through the arms in a moment as well. So lots of kind of hip movement to start with. Next time you come forwards, can you plant your right palm down either on your mat or on that block that you have underneath the hand? So your right hand is underneath your right shoulder, and then twist the torso to take your left hand up towards the sky. Great. We're going to go in and out of this twist. So inhale is the hand high. Exhale, we're taking that left hand down underneath your right shoulder, a little bit like thread the needle, except from there, when then scooping it straight back up to the sky. Exhale to scoop it under. Inhale to reach it towards the sky. Let's take it one more time. Exhale to scoop it under. Inhale to take it to the sky, but then holding that. Think about reaching the fingertips high, and maybe you turn to look towards those fingertips. Let's take a deep breath in. Exhale to bring the left hand down. We're going to step back to our tabletop from here. And you can do this with your hands on your blocks, or you can take your blocks to the side. And then allow yourself to just move with a little bit of freedom here. So again, maybe it's a cat-cow, maybe it's a wriggle side to side, or something to just move through, particularly your lower back here, and that space around the hips. And we're going to repeat most of that here on the opposite side, but coming in from our downward facing dog. So again, if you enjoyed the downward facing dog with your blocks, let's grab our blocks, place them underneath your hands, or take your hands onto your mat. Toes tuck, the knees lift to take the hips towards the sky. And then again, you might re-pedal out through the feet here, thinking about that sense of length and longness. And then this time we're going to step the opposite foot forwards. So we were working with our left foot forwards. We're going to take our right foot forwards and drop the left knee down. And again, you might take your blocks to the side. Take a moment to pad your left knee if it wants to be on a blanket or something softer. And then we're lifting up. First of all, finding that lunge shape where we reach the hands towards the sky. Maybe thinking about lifting as high as you can into the pose. Let's take a deep breath in and then exhale, hands come back down. Again, front foot wants to go an inch or two further forwards. And then you can work into this with the hands high or with the hands on your thigh again for support. Either way, we're rocking the hips forwards and then we're pulling the hip back. Toe might lift as you come back, rocking forwards and then pulling back. If it's hands in the sky, it might look a little bit like this, rocking forwards, pulling back. Listening to the body, maybe feeling into the shapes that you're making here on your mat. And then again, can we come back? Take the right foot there to the very edge of your mat. So we're coming to the lizard lunge variation. And again, if you're using your blocks, taking the blocks to the inside of your foot, palms down on them. So the knee is wrapped to the outside. And then again, we're rocking forwards and we're rocking backwards. And you're in control with how far you're rocking forwards and how far you're rocking backwards with this. That lift and lower. Breath in and breath out. And then next time that you come forwards, left palm plants underneath your left shoulder, whether it's on your block or whether it's on the ground. Right hand twists open towards the sky, so the torso turns to the right. And then can we bring our right hand down as if you're taking thread the needle, take it towards coming underneath your left armpit, and then inhale to take it back to sky. Exhale to bring it down. Inhale to take it back towards the sky. Exhale to bring it down. Inhale to take it to sky. Exhale to bring it down. One more time to the sky. Reaching the hand up and then pausing there. Breath in, breath out to bring your hand down. And then stepping back to your tabletop. Again, take the blocks to the side if you are using them and take a gentle wriggle out through the hips here. Side to side movement or a few rounds of your cat-cows. So I'm going to invite us to come into a little bit more of an active child's pose before we start to work into our more restorative postures. So I'll talk through a couple of options, but one thing I'm going to suggest for today is to take your blanket if you have one here and then roll it up so it's making a kind of sausage-like shape. You can take a fold if that feels better, and we're going to tuck that into the crease of the hips. So we're making a kind of little bit of a barrier, so we might not be going in quite as deep to the child's pose, but we're also looking to kind of open the space around the lumbar spine or that kind of lower section of the spine here. And again, if you have blocks, you might take the blocks out in front of you, or you can take a bolster and place it in front of you. That sausage shape that we made with our blanket, we want to kind of tuck that into the front of the hips, take the knees wide, and then lean forwards onto it. And again, it might feel a bit funky. If you don't enjoy it, feel free to take it out to the side. We're looking again to lean into our child's pose. Hands come onto your blocks, all the forearms onto your blocks, and then dropping the chest down here. We're only going to take 5 rounds of breath here. But see how it feels. Maybe there's a stronger compression where your blanket is kind of pushing into the abdomen. Maybe it's creating a little bit more space around your lower back. But again, if it doesn't feel good, slide it back out. Slow, steady breath in and slow, steady breath out. And then let's slowly lift all the way back up here. Release the blanket out, and we're going to set up for our first restorative posture. So our first restorative posture that we're going to work with this evening is our child's pose. So in the link that I sent you, there was probably a couple of different options for your child's pose. I'm going to talk us through a few. So I guess my favorite way of propping this is to use a bolster or to use a bunch of cushions out in front of you. If you have blocks, you could make a T shape with your blocks. So you've got one at a slightly higher height, a slightly lower height, and then you could grab your bolster and lie your bolster on your blocks. And this means that you've got a bit of an incline to kind of lean onto. If you want support for your knees, you could then place your blanket back under the knees. Or again, I'm going to add kind of my favorites in a lot of the time to these practices. But my favorite is to actually kind of swaddle the lower back in a child's pose. So a blanket around your lower back. And then just like you kind of swaddle a baby, we're tucking it in tightly around the hips on one side and then the other. Just so it feels a bit more supportive again for the lower back. You might bring your knees to the edges of your bolster. And then we're wanting to sink the chest down over it here. So it will take a bit of wriggling until you find what feels comfortable. It might be that you want your chin to drop off the edge, or you can turn your head to one side. With your arms, if you've got enough space between your two blocks, you can kind of take the hands to meet. You could drop the hands down with the palms up, or you can rest them or hug them around your bolster here. So again, we're looking for something that feels comfortable to be in for not too long here, but at least a minute or two. I'll talk us through a few kind of other little variations if this isn't feeling comfortable. So the biggest thing I kind of hear people say is that they don't feel supported around the lower back here. And to help with that, you could take a cushion on the top of your heels so that you've got something for your hips to then kind of rest into. Equally, if your head needs to be a bit higher, take a cushion underneath your chest as well. As we kind of come into this first one, be really fussy. Wriggle around until you find something that feels comfortable here. And then perhaps finding or looking for that slow, steady inhale and exhale again. In our child's pose, we might be looking to soften the edges of the shoulders so it kind of wraps around whatever prop that is underneath you. So we're melting the shoulders away or melting them towards the ground. That kind of curvature, a little bit like in a cat pose, is kind of replicated here in our child's pose. except from when we're perhaps sinking down into our props. At the moment, I'm talking quite a lot, but as we move through, I'll talk a little bit less and less. And we've been here roughly kind of half of our time. So you might gently lift your head and then turn your head in the opposite direction here. And once you have, again, wriggle as much as you need to rest the head back down into the ground. Taking a few rounds of breath on this side. And again, stillness isn't always kind of easy towards the beginning of these restorative practices. So if things is feeling a little bit busy still, maybe invite that sense of kindness again towards yourself. And we can be with the busyness for a moment if that's where you need to be. Or we can continue to kind of gently sink through here. Maybe with each exhale, those kind of layers shed away. Maybe the breath deepens. And then for this first restorative posture, I'm going to offer us a gentle bit of movement to come out. And then we're going to start to work towards our back or come onto our back for the next set of postures here. So you might lift the torso just enough to slide a prop out from underneath. If your bolster is quite low, then you could leave it where it is. Finding a tabletop position, and then again taking a gentle kind of sway or wriggle out here. And these movements don't have to be big. It could be any of the movements that we've already done, or a wriggle around here in a way that feels kind of releasing or gentle for the lower back again. We were going to work with our pigeon today, but I've actually kind of changed my mind. I think I will focus a little bit more on the lower back rather than the hips here, and we'll come into some twists on our back. If you know you are right here for the pigeon and you want to take a pigeon next, then that is very happy, like you're very welcome to take yourself there. Otherwise, we're going to move our bolster around to the side. And we're going to give ourselves space to come down onto our backs here. So you want all of your props within reaching distance. And you want to gently kind of turn yourself around. I'm just going to fold my blanket out to the side so you can see what I'm doing here. And we want to slowly come all the way down onto our backs. So there's no particular way to get there. Again, maybe you approach it with kindness. And when you get there, you might hug both knees in towards the chest here. And just kind of let the body hold this shape for a moment. If you know you want to take a roll side to side, take a roll, or stay with the stillness here. I've currently got my bolster over on my right. It doesn't matter which side you have it on, but just so you know in terms of cueing. I'm going to take my knees over so they rock onto my bolster. And this is option 1 for where you kind of land. So your knees have rocked over to the right. Or you can take your bolster Place it between your knees. So you're hugging your knees around each side of your bolster. Bolster is in between your legs. A little bit like, I don't know, I do this with a duvet in my bed. I wrap it between my knees. So maybe that kind of feeling. And then can you bring the back of your shoulders down onto the ground so the torso is twisted towards the sky? But again, this is our restorative posture. So we're looking to support the body in this position. So if you come in and you're like, oh, it feels like I'm really kind of having to hold myself into this position, or it doesn't feel quite comfortable, is there a way that you can place the bolster that feels more supportive? So, for example, sliding it more towards your feet or getting rid of it completely. If you're feeling a little bit chilly, then grab a blanket and place it over yourself. Hands, I like to rest them on my torso when I'm in restorative postures, but you might also want that sense of kind of opening, in which case take the hands really wide here into a T shape. And that last little thing I'm going to kind of talk about in our twist is where you want your head. So if you're looking for a little bit more sensation of twist, turn your head the opposite direction to your knees. If you're looking for less twist, maybe you're looking to the ceiling here. And then when we're in these twists, can you think about breathing into the side of your body? So breaths in and out here. We're going to take roughly another 10 of those slow, steady breaths here. Maybe with each exhale, softening the shoulders, softening that space around the hips and around the lower back here. And in a moment, I'm going to invite us to to mirror the same shape on the opposite side. But if we've got just that one bolster, it's going to be a little bit of a kind of juggling act to take it over to the opposite side. So as slowly as you can, you might find your bolster and then roll it over to the other side, or cushion if you're using a cushion. And then before we fully come into our twist, coming onto your back and taking both knees to sky. So the feet are planted here. And we'll just take a moment in the center, maybe decompressing the spine slightly before we twist it in the opposite direction here. And then when you're ready, we'll take the knees again over to the opposite side so you can land them on top of your bolster or on top of your cushions, or you can take those cushions and place them between your knees here. That between your knees and kind of curling in. So again, find the one that feels more comfortable to be in for a moment. And those small kind of details we talked about before as well. So, head might be turned away from the knees, seeing if you can sink the back of the shoulders down towards the ground. Noticing if you're holding yourself in the position here, and is there anything that you can find or bring in to help find a sense of softness? We'll take another 10 or so rounds of breath here as well. Maybe tracing that flow with your breath as it moves in and out. And then when you're ready, we're going to roll back to center again here. So releasing the prop or bolster to the side and rolling onto your back, knees to sky. It could be that you have the feet down, or you could give your knees a little hug back into chest. Maybe take a gentle sway around when you get there. Nice. Maybe finding a few clicks along the way. And then controversially, we're going to come up to a seat for a moment here, but as gently as you can, coming up to your seat so that we can set everything up for our final restorative posture. And so we're kind of everything we've been thinking, or I've been kind of guiding us through today, is to think about coming towards this reclined butterfly shape in our practice. There's lots of options for your butterfly. Some people like to have their back flat on the ground. I'm going to invite us to have a bolster behind us or some cushions behind us to try and open across the chest slightly. So a little bit like in a child's pose where we had a T shape with our blocks and then resting the bolster onto it means that that bolster has a bit of an incline. You can also take a cushion onto the top of that as well. So if I was adding a cushion in, I'd pile that cushion somewhere here around the top. So if you want that there, you could grab that there. And then we'll come back. So we're sitting as close up with our lower back as we can to the edge of your bolster or to the edge of your cushion. Soles of your feet come towards each other here. Now it's going to, again, depend slightly on kind of comfort levels. It might be that you enjoy taking the heels really close in, or find more of a kind of diamond shape where the feet are a bit further away from you. So that when you kind of lower yourself onto your bolster here, you can either take your hands, if you have pockets, great, you could slide them into some pockets. You could slide your hands into your waistband. I find that little bit of warmth again is quite comforting there. Or if you're looking to really kind of open around the chest, you could take the hands out wide here. So the backs of the hands are rested on your mat. Before you get too comfy, check in with how it feels. If there's any compression around your lower back, by compression I mean like a sharp bit of pain, you can extend your legs long instead, or you can come off of the prop that's behind you. If you like your blanket here, grab your blanket and then drape it over yourself. So comforting your toes, maybe all the way up to your chin, cozy it in, looking to be as comfy and cozy as we can here. And then again, be really fussy. If this isn't feeling comfortable this evening, you could come fully down onto your back, or you could find any other of your favorite kind of yoga positions that you enjoy here. We're looking for that sense of perhaps ease and comfort in the posture. Once you're here, I'm going to talk us through a gentle body scan just to kind of tune into sensation. So rather than tuning out here, can we still be present with our practice, even though we're finding that sense of resting into the body? So perhaps there's a few deeper breaths. Maybe the eyes start to soften or close. Can you invite a sense of softness around the jaw, or a softness around your face? And bringing your awareness to the very back of your head here. Bringing your awareness to the back of your head. Where the back of the head is rested. And from that place, can you gently bring your awareness down through the back of your neck to the back of your shoulders? Bringing your awareness to the back of your shoulders. And then can you soften through the shoulders? Or invite a sense of resting the shoulders into your prop or into your mat. From your shoulders, can your awareness travel down to your mid back and then to your lower back and to your hips? Can you invite the hips to soften here today? And if they need a bit of movement, again, you can move them here, or you can extend the legs away, or take any movement you need. Can you bring your awareness down through the back of your legs, around the back of knees, the back of your calves, towards your ankles, all the way down to your toes. Letting the awareness stay with the toes. We hold our awareness low in the body with the toes. Taking another 10 rounds of breath. Wherever you are. And from those toes, can you invite gentle wriggles? Maybe your fingers join with the wriggles here. And staying either rested on the ground or on your bolster, can you start to bring your feet a little bit closer here so the knees come up towards the sky? Hands might come around the front of your hips and starting to explore some gentle sway side to side. Some really small movement here. And if you're on a bolster, it might feel like you're kind of swaying to the edge of your bolster and then to the other edge. Perhaps wrapping your arms around your torso. So taking one hand to the opposite shoulder and then your other hand over as well. So almost kind of giving yourself a big hug here. And you can squeeze that hug as tightly in as you want to. Maybe in the hug, you send yourself compassion and warmth. We're going to bring just a tiny bit of energy back in here before we close our practice. So I'm going to invite you to gently come up to a seat here, but take your time. Bring your blanket with you for a bit of coziness. You can sit on a block here if you want to, or maybe sit on your bolster or cushion. Maybe your blanket is kind of draped around you somehow. Place mine on my lap. And then we'll come back to the neck again here. But this time, a little bit of self-massage if you want to try it. Taking your hands around the back of your neck here. So you can either interlace the fingers just behind the back of your neck, or you can kind of push your fingertips into that space where the back of your neck and the back of your head kind of join. Tuck the chin down and just kind of let it hang out here a little bit. If you enjoy the self massage, then tiny circles with the tips of your fingers into that space around the back of your neck. And you can kind of continue that down towards the back of your ears and then down to the sides of your neck, down towards the front where your collarbones are, and then sliding your hands all the way down onto your lap. And you're really welcome to repeat that here if you want to, or coming back to the seat that we started in this evening. Maybe resting your hands somewhere in your lap and taking a moment here to honor your practice from this evening, to honor yourself, body, and mind, especially for taking the time to be with your practice this evening. So, carving this little bit of space out into your evening. And honoring each other as well, for sharing this little online space of rest together. And to close, we're going to take a few rounds of breath together. So, just like we did at the start, but just 3 this time. See if you can find that bit of tallness in your seat here. Hands might find the knees. And then big breath in. Exhale or sigh out. Take a deep breath in. Exhale or sigh. Biggest breath you can in. Exhaling out. You could either bring your palms together at the heart in Anjali Mudra. It's that seal of our palms in practice. Or you could rest your hands on your torso. Sending yourself again kindness, compassion, and gratitude for taking the time to be here. To close this evening, we're going to take a gentle bow, both to self, but to each other as well here. And then we'll close our practice there for this evening. So there's no kind of rush to take big movements here.